Good afternoon, gentlemen. I don't have a script prepared for you today. Not as if you could tell a difference. I'm still working on the delivery of these topics and ideas, but I want to talk to you about what I'm going to work on this year. And typically, I'm against New Year's resolutions in theory because people place so much stock in the importance of January 1st. They place too much importance on the idea of the motivation they get, the sense of being fired up that they get at the beginning of a new year, not knowing that it's going to fade away. And then their behavior change doesn't last. And the goals they set were too big. The stuff they tried to work on was too much. And so for all those reasons, they fail. But if we can learn to set smaller goals, work on things in a more scientific and precise way, maybe we actually can improve. And I'm going to tell you something that I'm going to work on. I'm going to overlay for you this picture. It's probably going to be just a standstill picture today of what I'm going to work on, the outline of the plan that I'm going to work on. So I don't have a script for you, but I am going to just be looking at my paper here, the way that I've outlined my plan for change, and maybe you can use a similar idea if there's something you want to change this year. But I'm also going to be tracking over the whole year for you the ways in which I'm working to change myself. And my goal is to be less selfish. Now, something's probably screaming out at you, a first problem with my New Year's resolution, and it's the fact that it is way too vague. It is way too vague and non-specific. So the big picture is, I know I'm selfish, but what in the world does that mean? Because I've written lots of things, and you can find them on the website about the importance of service of self. You know, service of self is service of others, and in ways it is. I've written about how you're supposed to take care of yourself, which is still important. But I have to admit that I've gotten pulled into this selfishness trap, probably like many people in the modern world. We live in a world, a society, a culture that encourages us to be focused on only ourselves, and that's a huge problem. So what I'm going to work on is being less selfish. So I'm going to outline how I'm doing this, what I've noticed in myself that's the problem, and how small of changes I'm going to aim to make, because at the end of the day, those changes have to be small if they're going to be sticky. So if you're looking at the paper here, some things that I've noticed about myself is I'm essentially completely self-absorbed. And what does that mean? I spend 90% of my waking thoughts, 99% of my waking thoughts on myself. 1% or less of my thoughts are about other people. That is not good. That's pathological. Not good, gentlemen. When I'm thinking about business or work or anything like that, I don't think of others at all. Even though the whole structure of work is, how can I leverage my skills to serve others? And in serving others, I bring value back to myself. That's a huge issue that I'm seeing in my life now. I'm not thinking about others at all in business and work. I'm thinking about myself. How can I get the maximum out of what I'm providing? How can I do the best for myself? How can I put myself the furthest ahead financially? Not good. That's a hyper focus on the world, and that's a problem. No, number 4 on my list, which is huge pathology. I think of myself before I even think of my family. There are great and noble men who, before they'll ever make a career move, ever make a big decision, they're thinking about their families. They're thinking about their kids. They're thinking about their wives. They're considering everyone around them before they consider themselves. And that's not what I do. The first thing I think of is myself. And I don't think that's good. I think that's negative. And I think in the long term, it would lead to unhappiness, unfulfilledness, and depression. The 5th thing on my list, so I severely dislike serving others. And I can track this way back to even small events at church where it's the community outreach day, where at my church, we would pack up packages of food, pack up clothing. We'd sell the clothing or give it away we'd give it away or sell it for very cheap. And we'd give away food to the community. Now, I hated that. You know why? Because it ate up 4 hours of a Saturday. And that was a completely selfish attitude. The first thing I thought of wasn't these other people, but it was myself. And I assumed that they were just no good people coming to leech off the community and take whatever they wanted for themselves and give nothing back. So that's not good. That's a problem. I severely like serving others, detest any type of volunteer work, and that's not good. I want to get rid of those sensations. And then 6, also really not good is that I don't even enjoy the assembly at all. I don't enjoy assembling with the church. I don't look forward to it. I dread it. I don't enjoy it while it's going on, and I'm super happy to get out of there. Now, I'm being very transparent with you about all my issues, but what do I have to lose? I am anonymous after all. But this is not good. This is not the type of attitude that you want. You read in the scripture about David, who says that he was excited when it was time to enter the assembly of the Lord. That's what I want to have. I want to have that sensation of excitement, or not excitement, but enthusiasm, of joy when I enter the presence of the Lord in the assembly. I don't want to feel like I detest all the people around me in the assembly. So those are the things I need to work on. And I could have listed out many others, but I was just trying to get it all on one page and just get down whatever I could. Now I want to outline for you my plan for change here. I've broken it down into 3 phases. In the first phase, this is where I think people go wrong in their New Year's resolution. They immediately jump in and try to start shifting behavior. And not only that, but they try to shift behavior on a massive scale, trying to do way more than they should. If you take the example of a lot of people are going to set the resolution for getting in shape this year, and they're going to try to fix every part of their currently deficient procedure for health right now. So most of them are getting bad sleep, no cardio, no strength training, and they're eating poorly. That's 4 components of health there. What a lot of people are going to try to do is they're going to try to fix all of them at once. They're going to say, I'm going to get my diet in check. I'm going to get my sleep in check, and I'm going to work out, do my cardio. I'm going to do that every day. I'm going to lift weights 4 times a week. I'm going to change all of these things. And people burn out when they do that. They try to change way too much. Way too much. When what they should do is focus on one and then shrink the one pillar to something very, very tiny. Getting the strength training in line, but not just the strength training, setting a very, very low bar, like one exercise, one set of one exercise. Just get started. Make it easy to start. So what I'm doing, phase 1, I'm giving myself between 1 and 4 weeks just to observe myself. And this is what I'm going to kind of be reporting on. This is going to be my field reports. I'm going to be looking at myself, being more conscious of what do my thoughts consist of in relation to, am I thinking about others or am I thinking about myself? How many times am I thinking about others? How many times am I thinking about myself? What actions on a day-to-day basis am I taking towards others? Am I being selfish in my actions? Am I being selfless in my actions? And if I am being selfless, am I resentful about it? Do I enjoy it? That's probably going to take some serious time. The emotional change for anything like that takes some serious time to change. So 1 to 4 weeks, I'm just observing. And I'm going to be carrying around a notebook or a small little notepad so I can jot down different things I do throughout my day so that I can provide you with a report of how I'm trying to change. After that, it's going to be on to phase 2. So phase 2 is going to be between 2 and 6 months. And you'll see that I've got wide time frames for very small changes. That's going to be okay. We can't get impatient with our growth. You look into the Bible, you'll see that the growth of the individual so often is compared to the growing of trees or plants, different kinds of agriculture. And I think that was done in part because the people of the day, they were agrarian. They would have understood all those analogies, but also we need to understand that God is okay if the progress that we make is slow. As long as we're making that progress and not standing still or regressing, He's okay with small progress. So I've got wide time frames for what you might think is just negligible change in my life. And that's okay. That's okay, because if I make these changes relative to where I am, you heard the 6 points of where I am. If I can change and get out of some of those and make some progress, that's going to be massive in my opinion. And that's why these time frames are so long. So phase 2, for tiny changes, that's going to be 2 to 6 months. I'm giving myself 2 to 6 months to make these changes. And these are going to be specifically internal changes. I'm going to try to change internally first and then manifest external changes later. Now, I got no evidence for that. That's just what I've decided to do. I'm sure you can find people who say you need to change external first and then work on the internal world, but this is what I'm doing. I'm making tiny changes, and these are going to be internal changes for 2 to 6 months. And these are just some of my options. And I know they're just looking at them, reading them again, they sound a little cheesy. That I've got some discomfort and some general distaste towards these things. just because I have that level of selfishness. So one of my tactics is going to be, I'm going to pray for one other person. Now, I'm not going to integrate all these at once. I'm going to pick one of these at a time, probably one of these per month. And these aren't the only things. These are just what I thought of at first. Pray for one other person. It's got to be a person outside my family. I'm going to think of ways to use my skills for others instead of just thinking of ways to use my skills to make more money for myself or to progress my own career, things like that. So thinking of ways to use skills to actually help other people and serve other people. So when I think of businesses, or I think of things I want to do in my own business or career in regular work, I'm going to first think about ways I can serve others instead of thinking about, okay, what do I know how to do and what can I leverage to make the most money? Because if I know it's old school and I have never really tried it before, but perhaps if you think about serving others first and you design your business structure around service, the reward will come back to you. That's some old-fashioned Earl Nightingale type of thinking. That's what I'm going to try. I'm going to try that. So when thinking of business and thinking of work, I'm going to think first about service. And then I'm going to amp up my gratitude practice. So one of the problems with selfishness is it turns into a lot of unthankfulness. And there is a lot of resources on the website about how the recipe for peace, the recipe for reducing your anxiety and worry is gratitude. And I'm trying to practice gratitude, but it's obviously not enough. I'm going to try to amp that up. How am I going to do that? I'm going to sit down and actually go through multiple things that I'm grateful for each day. So I already go through a couple. I usually go through about 3. But I'm going to try to crank that to minimum of 10. And I'll keep you updated along the way. So that's phase 2. Phase 3 is going to be, again, these are tiny to medium changes. And these are going to be my external changes. And I'm going to give myself between 3 and 12 months to do this. So I've kind of got overlapping timetables in case I progress faster than I plan. But also I've got time in case I don't progress so fast. So phase 3, external changes. Now this first one, it is a tiny change still to volunteer 1 hour a week or do some pro bono work. But to me, just saying that out loud, the sound of that, it just sounds horrible. The idea of volunteering my time, giving it away for free, just sounds atrocious. And that's reflective of my level of selfishness right now. Not good. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I'm going to plan that out later. But 1 hour a week is going to be sacrificed. Surely I can find a way to sacrifice less than 1% of the week. Okay, next thing we're going to try is notes of encouragement. So what I'm thinking specifically is thank you notes, or not even thank you notes, but notes of encouragement, of appreciation to different people in the church. Take your elders, for example, who have a difficult and weighty job of church discipline, of shepherding the people. That's, in my thoughts, that is horribly demanding. It is an extraordinarily demanding position, maybe the most difficult position in all the land, because you're watching over the souls of people. So giving those individuals notes of thankfulness, notes of appreciation, because all they hear about is the problems in the church, the problems of individuals. So we're trying to work around that and actually be positive and uplifting those people, taking time out of the day, writing some notes of encouragement, maybe one of those a month. And then it's just a general one is to spend more time with family, with friends, because even you'd be surprised, but I'm more interested in spending time on my own interests than I am with even family and friends. And that's not good. None of these things are good. And writing them all out and looking at them objectively gives you a chance to really see where you are and then try to make some adjustments. So maybe you can test out this just format of change for the year. See if you can figure out ways you want to change. And then at the very end, I've just written down some barriers. What are the things that have stopped me in the past, to stop me currently from working on this selflessness? And first of all, to me, it feels weak. It feels unmanly. It feels like you're making an excuse. You're just going to be one of those mini religious people who says, "Oh, I'm so righteous that I'm just not worried about my career. I'm not worried about making money. I'm just so focused on the church and blah blah blah." You know, those people have always irritated me throughout my life. And so perhaps in an attempt to be less like them, to be my own, I've run in the opposite direction. And that's not good either. I think you can have both. You know, I've mentioned Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who the Bible takes time to mention their character, but also to mention that they're successful in the materialistic sense, but they never place those things above God in importance, and that's the key. So what stopped me in the past is it feels weak, it feels effeminate to do these things. And perhaps that's just a tool of the enemy, a tool of the adversary to stop me. I get accomplishment FOMO, accomplishment fear of missing out. I think that if I start focusing on others, I'm going to have no choice but to sacrifice success in the material world. And again, this is outlining for me that I've got too much focus on myself and too much focus on the material world, and that's a problem. And then lastly, it's just painful in general to be selfless. You got to sacrifice. And what do I mean by sacrifice? It's going to cost time. It's going to cost time. And time being that most valuable resource. And I'm extraordinarily selfish with my time. And it just hurts to give it up. So the pain-pleasure principle, as basic as it sounds, that's what stopped me as well. So that's the outline for my change. That's what I'm going to be trying to do this year. And I'm going to try to keep you all updated with how we're doing, with what I'm doing, the way I'm doing it, how I'm tracking my behaviors, how I'm working on change, and the struggles and pitfalls and difficulties along the way. And as for you all, please let me know how I can be of more service to you. I am looking for ways to serve. I want to provide things for you that are actually valuable, that are actually important. So I hope you'll subscribe to the channel and share the article, any articles that you think are helpful. Share those with your friends. They're all free. Just send those around and help one another out. Let me know what I can do to help you. Let me know what information you think would be important to talk about, to think about, or to read about if you want to hear about it. I want to help you. I want to be of more service to you, and that's one of my goals this week. So put down in the comments, what are your goals for this year? If you're making any goals or any tiny changes. I know haven't been a New Year's resolution person in the past, but here's one for you that I'm going to try. Let me know what yours are. Let me know what you want to see. And let me know what you're going to do with your life. Good luck to you all.